everybody, welcome to a very cold and wet Klein Karoo. Yes, yesterday the weatherman said it was 24 degrees, but it was definitely not 24. It was much warmer until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The day before hovered between 33 and 34 degrees Celsius, but today is freezingly cold. Anyway, it is a brilliant excuse to stay indoors and in my room. We all need days like today, particularly seeing the way it started. At about 7 a.m. I heard sirens and vehicles, and I immediately thought there was an accident a bit further down the main road. But the sirens did not fade away, and the next thing I knew, both my daughter and Dragonman got up and went outside. I heard them talking to someone and realized the drama was actually right here. So I got up. 6 policemen at our gate, one with a long gun, one already starting to climb over the fence. Scary, guys. Well, it turns out they had the wrong house. Funny, but not funny. Oh well, let's get into today's royal stories and scandals. Look, my dear friends, I am and have been for some time getting so sick of Meghan Markle that I started reading a bit wider so that we can gossip about someone else for a change. But before we do that, I want to clear a few things up from yesterday's video. I did not say George could not become king at 18, but he certainly will need a trusted mentor and signatory until he is 21. Although Parliament can step in and basically bend or break the rules, Catherine cannot become regent for Prince George, as she is not a direct descendant of the royal family. Of course, she will remain his guardian until he is 21, and as such, she will have a big say in where he goes, when, and what he does. But no, she cannot be a regent for George. I think at some point I actually thought that maybe she could, but someone sent me documents to prove me wrong. Now, I can't remember who sent it, but I did download and save it. I also did not say that Parliament could not take Harry's titles or position in the line of succession without the king. They certainly can, but they won't. They said as much. The king is not supposed to interfere in politics, and the politicians repay the courtesy to not interfere with titles and so forth, unless the king actually requests them to via a letters patent, or of course if something big and criminal happens and they are forced to intervene. I mean, it just is what it is, and it doesn't come from me. It actually comes from parliamentary representatives. A while ago there was an entire debate about Harry's titles. Bob Seeley, remember, a backbencher, suggested and eventually presented a bill to Parliament to strip Harry's titles. He received quite a bit of support from people like a man with the surname of Houghton. If I remember correctly, he was a minister for children or something like that, also a conservative. Now, look, I'm relying on my memory here because now I can't find the article, but never mind. Parliament as a whole wanted to amend the laws pertaining to titles, etc., but Charles and Rishi Sunak opposed it. Their point of view was that neither Parliament nor the monarchy should have so much power that they can strip royal, and the catch was peerage titles without the input of the other. Charles in particular wanted no power over the peerage titles because he did not want to be the one to strip his own son's ducal title. So as of today, the king can remove Harry's HRH and even his princely title and then demote him to something else like a duke or a baron, just like they did with Edward VIII when he married Wallis. But Harry's ducal title and position in the line of succession can only be removed by an act of parliament. However, after, I think, the second reading of the proposed new bill, a member of parliament had an interview with a journalist in which he basically said they will not interfere with royal titles and that request for such things must come from the monarch, after which Parliament will indeed deal with it. I'm looking for that particular interview. If I find it, I will play it for you. I'm actually so glad that big channels like Lady C, Dan Witten and others, as well as mainstream media, is now really picking up on the Markle children debacle. Once again, after we've been through wobbly bumps and bumps swinging around her knees, Meghan is now again playing with us. The child in the rose garden is not the same as the one in the boat with Harry or the one with Auntie Serena. I mean, it just is what it is. It's a fact. And it is not just the hair texture and color, it's the shape of the head, the ears, the stance, the aura. So, you know what? This must stop. I don't care whether it is hair dye or Photoshop or a wig. It does not matter. I don't care whether Lily looks like a beauty queen or Miss Piggy. Meghan has to stop her games, and as the children only has prince and princess titles so far, Charles and his Privy Council can absolutely decide and say, give us the proof and answers we seek, or we remove their prince and princess titles via a letters patent and request that Parliament remove them from the line of succession. And then, my dears, oops, if they don't qualify for the line of succession, I mean, then their names can just be struck, that's all. So it is really, really long overdue for these things to be dealt with. In my opinion, with Meghan now using her HRH and posting an obviously different child or Photoshop picture or whatever of the so-called Lily, she is indeed challenging the royal family, the British government and the king. I mean, she can just as well stand up and show the king the middle finger, yelling, "What are you going to do about it, Charlie?" Well, the sound of silence from Charlie's side is almost, I would say, almost deafening. It's so quiet. Okay, guys, while William and Catherine are being their wonderful selves and Harry and Meghan are being their horrible selves, I started reading up about Queen Letizia of Spain. I've seen the usual articles, gossip and fleeting scandals about her, and although her husband, King Philippe, looks like a nice guy, I have never been sure whether I liked Letizia or not. She is indeed a beautiful woman. She dresses impeccably, and at 52 you can see that she took good care of herself. Well, we can put it in this way. She looks younger and has a better skin than Meghan Markle, although she's 8 years older. From what I can gather, she is indeed intelligent, was a journalist, her last gig having been with CNN. But to my surprise, I also learned that King Philippe is her second husband, and that she was married for a year before she met Philippe. I am now getting to the gossip and scandals, and at some point we'll talk about that, and then we will make up our mind as to whether we should like her or not. I must, however, tell you that I've gone off Queen Rania of Jordan a bit. I used to be a huge fan, but lately I've gone off her. I do not really like the fact that she is so closely involved with the WEF, and she appears to be a little egotistical, maybe even narcissistic lately, or had she always been like that? I don't know, but we'll talk about that in a completely separate video at some point. But anyway, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to love and leave you for now. Please take good care of yourselves. Bye.